Hey, Leading Hope community. A little bit of a different start to the podcast over this month. I'm so excited. This month, I have a book coming out, and it's very different from the content of this podcast. This is not a leadership book. It's about faith, how people lose it, what happens when faith has been left behind, and how to rebuild it. The book is titled Reconstructing the Rubble. It doesn't release nationwide until March, but if you want to be a part of the launch team, you can go to behope.church/book to get an early copy of this book and help us get the word out to others. Thanks so much for being a part of this, and here is our Leading Hope podcast.
Welcome to the Leading Hope Podcast with Kevin Jack. Your influence will lead people somewhere, lead them towards hope. Everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.
Welcome to Leading Hope with Kevin Jack. I'm your host, BJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day to become a better leader. We release a new episode every Wednesday, so we'd love for you to share on social media and bring others along with us on this journey of becoming a better leader. Visit leadinghope.online to get updates and find out more about the Leading Hope community. If you're new to the podcast, what should they do if they're new to the podcast, Kevin?
They should subscribe,
Yes, they should.
rate, and review.
That is it.
I would appreciate it, and it would mean the world to VJ.
It would mean the world to VJ. That's so good. Hey, man, we are in the last of our capacity series. This is the last episode, episode 48. I love this title, The Capacity Hack. I know you're intrigued. Kevin, great title. Do you just want to end the show now?
We should.
Yeah, that was it.
Altar call, pray. We've given the title.
That's
We're good.
Awesome. Let's do it.
So, for the last 4 weeks, this is the 5th week, we've talked about capacity. We've talked about the container that is your life and all the blocks that go in that container. And instead of just working on balance and block management in and out, saying you can expand the container. So we've talked about so much different stuff. We've talked about like the logistics that go into that. We've talked about the rhythms of that, how you can expand the ceiling of what you're capable of in your ultimate capacity. And today I want to get into something that it won't necessarily, capacity is an ability, but it's also a feeling. Like there is a maximum level of responsibility that you can handle. In the same way, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to talk about stuff that I don't know about for just a second.
Okay.
Like internet has a certain bandwidth of data and information and stuff that it can handle.
Sure. Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You have a certain bandwidth.
Absolutely.
You can expand your bandwidth.
Yep.
So there's a set piece to this. It's an ability, but it's also a feeling. Like you may feel you're at your bandwidth. You may feel I am at full capacity. And there's a hack to that. There's something key that you need to do. And so I want to share a story that is one of my favorite stories. And everyone who has done like a children's lesson or something like that, you may have used this because it's one of the most popular illustrations. And what you do is you take a bowl, you get a bunch of sand, you get a bunch of pebbles, and then you get a bunch of large rocks.
Oh, yeah.
And what you want to do is you want to show someone, and you take the bowl, and the first thing you do is you put in the big rocks, and then you pour in the pebbles, and then you pour in the sand, and you go, look, it all fits.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you take the bowl and you reverse the order and you put in all the sand and then you put in all the pebbles. And what you'll find is that the large rocks at the end don't fit.
Yeah.
Now, we did this at our church once.
Yep.
And if I could just call out our staff member, Keisha Plaskett, who is amazing, stood up on one of our family worship services to give this illustration, but did not carefully measure out ahead of time the size of the rocks and the size of the bowl. And the best part was that she did the illustration the first way and put in the big rocks and the pebbles and the sand. She goes, look, it fits. Now watch what happens when you put in all the small stuff first. So the sand and the pebbles went, and then the rocks fit like snugly. She didn't have enough sand and pebbles. She goes, well, that's not what it's supposed to mean. Keisha, little shout out to you. That is one of the highlights of my life, is living through that and teaching all the kids.
That's great.
It fits. Here's the principle that is supposed to be in that object illustration. Get the big rocks, get the big blocks in first. When the big blocks are put in your life first, the small stuff fits in a lot better. Capacity is an ability, but it's also a feeling. And if those big rocks in your life are hanging out at the edges of the container, if the big rocks are the part that's overflowing, which means they don't fit right, you're going to feel like you're at capacity far sooner than you actually are. Andy Stanley, our good friend.
Yes. If you're Andy, if you're watching, welcome to Leading Hope.
Welcome to Leading Hope, Andy. Says it like this: order determines capacity. The order in which you prioritize your life. You could also say priority, but order determines capacity. When your life is focused on things that don't matter, when the things that don't matter happen first, you will feel overwhelmed. Yeah. So let me talk application real quick, and then I'm going to throw an idea out and send it to you that you're unaware of.
Oh, good.
Is the big blocks in my job matter more than the little blocks. So I do the highest leverage activities first. One of the things I read years ago was be a maker in the morning, be a manager in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Like one of the most significant things I do within my work is the content piece. The content piece comes first. So you could literally go throughout my day. And my day in terms of, I was looking at my calendar from the bottom up. If you're watching on YouTube, like if you would say from 7 a.m. on throughout the day is in descending order of priority. The last things in my day are the least important things.
Yeah.
Order determines priority. When I get those important things taken care of first, I am far more capable of taking on the sand, the pebbles. The big blocks in my job matter more than the little blocks, so I do the highest leverage things first. The big blocks in my life matter more than the big blocks in my job. If my home life is a mess, and I don't just mean my house, I mean my household is a mess.
People in the house.
I'm not getting anything meaningful done in my work. And so the order is I prioritize in my schedule my family before I prioritize in my schedule my work. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean, all right, I need to go on a slight tangent, okay? I believe quantity time in relationships matters. I do. But I think if you have learned nothing else during COVID, it isn't always necessarily more quantity.
Oh, man.
I believe quantity time matters. But, man, when we were in shelter in place, we were home for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks by ourselves. 3 weeks, like Bethany and I had nothing to talk about because we experienced everything together.
Yeah.
Like, we've never been apart. How was your day? You were here. Yeah. The whole, it was this. Yeah. You were there. Yeah. And I think at some point in time, we have thought that if I'm going to prioritize my family, that means I need 80 hours, 100 hours, whatever the number is with my family. And I believe that quantity time matters, but I also really believe quality time matters.
Oh, man, no doubt.
And so I've recently been able to adopt this, that I've started working from home some days of the week. I don't go into the office every day. That works fantastic for my schedule because as I've talked before, I work great in the morning. And so instead of having to get up and drive in and everything else, I just literally roll out of bed and start writing. And that works fantastic for me. And what I've been able to do by that, I've been able to prioritize key moments. Getting my kids on the bus, getting my kids off the bus, being there when they first come home to set them up for the rest of the day and to hear about their day. And so by learning, those are the big blocks, those pivotal moments. By getting those big blocks in, the relationship is a lot healthier. So I say that as the big blocks in my relationships, especially my family, matter more than the big blocks in my job. And when I prioritize those key times and those key moments, everything works better. And then here's man, I'm a pastor. You know I'm if you don't know, hey, I'm a pastor. Welcome to Leading Hope. We're also part of Be Hope Church, which is why we're doing all this to help equip our Hope team and our staff and our key leaders more than anything else. But this is what I believe within that the big blocks in eternity matter more than the big blocks that are temporary. The big blocks, if it's eternity, it's a big block. I believe that if my faith is not intact, if my faith is not healthy, if my relationship with God is not where it should be, then I am disconnected from my purpose, which, as we've already talked about, is the key to capacity.
Yep.
And so it's to understand order determines capacity. The capacity hack is knowing it's not just about the ability of capacity, it's about the feeling of capacity. And when I prioritize the big blocks first, I won't feel overwhelmed nearly as quickly as if I allow my day to simply always end up on someone else's agenda. When I put the big blocks in first, I can literally fit more good things in my life. And when those small blocks don't fit, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not. There are some voicemails that don't get returned.
Yep.
It just, I'm sorry. Like, there's some emails that I don't reply to. If you contact me on Facebook Messenger, oh my goodness, like you should go looking for like the pot of gold under the rainbow if I reply. I just don't reply to it because order determines capacity. That's not top priority.
Right.
There's some things that don't get done in my life. But here's the deal.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
How productive, how effective would I be if I responded to every voicemail, every email, and every message request, and yet neglected my wife and my kids and what we're doing right now? Like, you would go, Kevin, what a stupid trade.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
What a stupid trade.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to make that trade. Now, this is what I want to talk about with you, because I've heard you teach on this idea that we have talked about. And you use the illustration. You talked about the different areas of your life.
Yep.
And you use the thought of going, hey, and this really focused in on the purpose side. So this is going to take a little bit of slant, but I want to get to this within this capacity series.
Yeah.
You say, if I view my financial life as going one direction and my home life going another direction and my physical life going another direction. And so if you can imagine this, you've got all the different categories of your life and the arrow is pointing out every direction. I feel stretched.
Yep.
But when I point all those arrows the same direction, I don't feel stretched. Talk about that.
Man, so what I realized was that I wanted to do a lot with a little. And what I realized is that I couldn't do that.
That's the story of my life in terms of my talent and ability.
Exactly.
I want to do a lot with a little.
Yeah, I mean, I only have a certain set of skills and capacity, and in order to grow that means that whole circle of those arrows being pointed out everywhere have to be pointed in one direction. Well, guess what? That can't be me.
Oh, that's good.
That has
Keep
to
going.
That has to be God. God has to be the center and the foundation of my purpose. He gives me purpose and he points me all to him, and then from him gives me the capacity in order to make all those arrows happen in a way that he wants them to happen. And I can't do that by myself. And that's what we do. We point all the arrows to me and realize that I don't have a capacity without his capacity. And he has an unlimited capacity, right? He's now, today, tomorrow, what's the word? Yeah. What we all like to say, right? And so what I realized is when I get up in the morning, and I just put this on Instagram the other day, and I had a few people comment on it, we all, if you're a nerd like me, you got multiple monitors in your office somewhere, and on the monitors I have sticky notes, and one of the sticky notes is order determines capacity. And I look at that every day, and I know where my order and capacity comes from, because right below it says God first. Because if I look at God and I say, God, you put the big blocks in the way they need to be, then everything, well, you talked about ebb and flow. The ebb and flow comes really, really easy to see in not only my heart, but in my mind. And I can focus directly on exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I love what you wrote here, Kevin. Make her in the morning, manage the afternoon, man. That is powerful, man. And so when we do this and we think, God, put these things in the order in which you would do them, and everything flows from that, you will watch your capacity go
Love it.
through the roof.
I think one of the fascinating things is we've never taken the time to actually talk about like priority. Yeah. We've never taken the time to actually prioritize those different things or to clarify our purpose. And when you do that, everything feels like a big block.
Yeah.
Everything feels massive and overwhelming.
Yep.
It's to go, and well,
if you got two quarterbacks, you don't have one.
That's the reality. And you go, hey, here's the deal. a little bit in debt. My work is asking a little more for me. My kids don't feel right. Like all these other things. All right, let's just talk about it as clear as we possibly can. This is what I observe happen over and over again. Everything feels like a big block. People get stretched in their work, in their finances, with their kids, in their activities, and then church falls off. And the thing that just, oh my goodness, I'm not upset. I'm not frustrated. It terrifies me for people.
Yes.
Because that is the one thing that continuously reorders our lives.
Yes.
And so I'll watch people do this and they get overwhelmed because they never identified the big blocks. They never identified what the purpose of all of these different things are. And I go, your life's out of control, and it's not getting more in control. What you have done is by eliminating church and faith, you have created a small pocket of time that will quickly, within a month, because that's what we do. I'm skipping church this morning. We're so busy. I'm not reading scripture, which is actually kind of like an old practice that most people can't even imagine at this point in time today. We've gone from reading chapters of the Bible to a verse of the day. We go, oh, that's even a lot. I did a verse.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yep.
And what happens is we try to create this small margin of time by eliminating our faith. That's going to get filled in a week. It's going to get filled in a week.
Yeah.
And then there's no order to set within there.
Yeah, I can speak. Listen,
you talk about.
I have
this.
not.
I'm preaching. You testify.
No, I have never in my life not been able to have a high capacity or not been able to have the joy. My life was a wreck for 20 years of trying to figure it out. And I can tell you, if you put God at the bottom of your list, you will not figure it out either. And until you put him where his rightful place is, in the center of everything, you can't have all the things in which you think you need. You know, I always say it like this: give God what you have and he'll give you what you need.
I was listening to a speech recently by Dabo Sweeney,
this is a good one.
Coach of Clemson.
I was thinking about that.
And he says every year, he starts the season with this. And I thought he was going to say like the John Wooden, this is how you put on your sock. Like this is Vince Lombardi, this is a football. He says every year, one of his first meetings with the team, he'll call up a freshman. Call a freshman up. He puts a football fully inflated on the ground. He says, stand on this football. So freshman looks at him kind of funny and no, stand on the football. And he kind of like steps on it and wobbles back and forth and is holding on to Dabo. He goes, if the foundation of your life is football, this will be the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You're going to always struggle with tottering back and forth and not knowing where it should be. If the foundation of your life is work accomplishments, if the foundation of your life is your success, if the foundation of your life is your family, and I know that's a heretical thing to some people because they're like, oh no, my kids are everything. If they are, it's going to crumble.
Yeah. My marriage was about to be over because we never put God at the center of our marriage. We put each other's feelings, right? Thinking love was a feeling and not an action and not a verb, right? And so when we didn't do that, nothing about our family was ever going to ever get better for the long term and actually be a union of love. And until we put God in the center, once we did, the order determines capacity. Now we have the ability to do so much more together than we would have ever had apart.
That's awesome. All right, Veach, here's my long close. Okay, because we're not getting. But this is, and then you can close us out within everything.
Okay, man.
This is what I really want you to see, is expanding capacity is not just about doing more, and it's not just about effectiveness. And so if I give a glimpse of this, I do more today. There are people who do far more than me, okay? I'm not holding myself up as the beacon. I do more today than I could have ever imagined that I would be able to do 20 years ago. And it is a delight.
Yes.
Like it is.
Yeah.
It's a joy to be able to be a part of all these different things. Like look at it and go, I get to be involved with my kids and my wife in this way, in church, in leadership, in faith, and like all these other things. It is amazing to me, the life that I get to live and all that I get to be a part of. And yet there's times of pain.
Yeah.
And there's times of difficulty. And I've grown and expanded enough that I'm not scared of the pain because I know it'll teach me something. But
good.
when you do this and you properly order your life in the way that it was meant to be, the responsibility becomes a delight and not a burden.
Oh, that's good.
And for too many people, the responsibilities that you carry, you like the hashtag adulting, cut it out. Don't ever say it again. It's funny, but don't ever say it again. Because what that says is like, I'm doing responsibilities that I'm not really capable of. Walk into it and believe. I may not feel capable of this, but I am capable of this. And as that grows and expands, if you order your life the way it was intended to be ordered, it's joy, and you'll keep growing over time.
That's awesome, man. For everyone listening right now, I can tell you this: if you reorder your life in the way you were designed by God, I have to throw that in there because I know it through and through. Life experiences. When you reorder your life in the way you can never have any more joy because of that. Because of the way that you're designed. So, man, that's powerful. Is there anything you want to leave somebody with?
That's it.
You're
That's
good
my
to go.
close.
That's awesome, man. Thank you guys so much. I love this series. I hope that you guys loved it too. Today's episode 48, we close the capacity hack. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, make sure you do that now. It's beating the algorithms every week, and we love that. Also, to post about it and rate and review or both. You won't believe how that helps us get to the hands of so many more leaders like you. And we love hearing your stories. Listen, if you listen to the series and you have a story about capacity or a question or a comment, let us know. Go to the website, leadinghope.online, and send it there. We love hearing from you. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.